Accountability Uganda. Is the fight against corruption achievable? That is our topic for today for the inter-university debate. I welcome you to the talk show. This show is brought to you by Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV. Inter-university debate is a platform where university students meet and discuss issues that affect the country, that affect the world. They are able to project their arguments and their perspectives. So today, to discuss with me that topic on is the fight against corruption achievable, I have a panel of 2 ladies and 1 gentleman. You're welcome to the inter-university debate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so Uganda in the past few weeks has been awash with corruption scandal around call it the Iron Sheet saga. So we have had people project their opinions on the issue of the Iron Sheet saga. But that has not been the only corruption scandal that this country has faced. We have had in the past several corruption scandals as well, especially in the public sector, that my panelists are going to unpack today. Now, the fight against corruption is something that is global. Internationally, the statistics has also shown that there is a very high rate of corruption in different countries. Now, corruption is something that is not easy to measure, but we have had statistics that have come out. One is on the perceptions index, corruption perceptions index by Transparency International. Now, Transparency International came out in 2022 and said out of 100, 43 out of 100 is the index for corruption worldwide. And in their report, they stated that corruption is a global issue. This matches the statistics with the World Bank. So internationally, there is a vice of corruption. Now, in Uganda, we have had several corruption scandals in the public sector. And the office of the Prime Minister has been a place of corruption that has come out, and we have seen several scandals come out from that office. And we ask ourselves today why the office of the Prime Minister, in a state where office of the Prime Minister is supposed to implement government business. Let me welcome the panelists without preempting the discussion. I'll start with the first panelist that is seated next to me, and that is Mr. Obbo Jimmy from Kyambogo University. Jimmy, you're welcome to the inter-university debate. Let me welcome you in a special way because it's your first time on the show.
Yes.
So you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It is an opportunity to be here, and most importantly, to speak about matters that concern society, because corruption affects each and everyone in society. My name is Obbo Jimmy. I'm from Kyambogo University. I'm a third-year student pursuing a Bachelor of Arts with Education in English Language and Literature in English Language. I'm so honored to be here.
Okay, thank you so much, Jimmy. We are happy to have you for the show. Let me introduce the other 2 familiar faces to the show. I'll start with Miss Nabukwasi, Rebecca. She is a student at Kampala International University. Rebecca, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm so pleased to be here.
Okay, our third panelist is Miss Josephine Namakula. She is a student at St. Lawrence University. Josephine, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, moderator. I once again appreciate everyone who follows us on any channel that you follow Civic Space. We are so humbled, and I'm so also glad to be again back on this show. Thank you.
Okay, so let us unpack this topic, corruption in Uganda, and is that fight achievable? We are asking that question in the year 2023, several years after we have had the NRM government in power, and corruption being among the reasons why they came into power, that is to fight corruption. So let me start with Jimmy. So Jimmy, what is the current status quo? I know I gave a bit of a background, but in Uganda, what is the current status quo around the fight against corruption?
I think the status quo of corruption within the country is appalling. It is alarming. Shame upon us. We have lost dignity, and there's a lot of moral decadence within this population. 30% of Ugandans say that they have paid a bribe to get a public service. Maybe at the hospital, they have bribed probably medics, or probably bribed somewhere to have a service. So I think as a country, our stand is not so good. We are really doing so bad. And I think the fight against corruption itself is achievable. That is the answer I would say. It is very much achievable if certain things in the systems of governance change. And that the fight against corruption starts with political will to fight this corruption. If there's no political will to fight corruption, then this whole debate is going to be in vain. The systems in power, the systems at power should be willing to fight corruption. But if the systems in power are propagating the corruption and playing ping-pong games of appeasing the population to show that something is really done, yet in the instant, they are not actually doing something. So I think as a country, we need to go back to the drawing board and make institutions begin to function. What do I mean? That the institutions that form up government, the three organs of government, the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive, should be allowed to function independently with self-autonomy. We live in a country that only one institution is functional, that is executive. So you cannot fight corruption if the judiciary and the legislature is being subjugated upon by the executive. That when the judiciary or probably the legislature comes up with laws and formats of fighting corruption, the executive is going to tell them, please hold on, please go slow on that. We can't fight corruption like that. And then generally, corruption has a mafia, a gang of people that wield a lot of power, that have some sense of entitlement in this country, that when you try to talk about these particular acts of corruption, you literally put your family into danger, your life into danger, and you can get killed for speaking about corruption. And I think at that particular note is that even the chain that around the president himself, the people that are around him, and the truth is that corruption is a market for the wealthy, for the middle class, for the aristocratic. The poor people, the people in the most rural areas in this country, do not know about corruption. They only get the implications of corruption after they have been, people have stolen billions of money, people have stolen land sheets, people have stolen drugs. That is when they feel the implication of corruption. The people that are in the business world, who evade taxes and all that, those are the people that are engaging in corruption. The poor person in probably Toro, Ogulu, or Mitoma, in the rural areas of those particular districts, may not even know the whole game of corruption. But the people that are in these offices, and ironically, the people that are corrupt are the educated. So I think maybe our education system as well has a problem, that it educates people to become more materialistic and be ambitious to acquire a lot of wealth, of which this is illicit wealth, and they acquire wealth in dubious ways. So personally, I think corruption, the fight against corruption is achievable if the three institutions of government and institutions generally within the country are empowered to fight corruption. But if the institutions are being subjugated upon by certain forces, then the fight of corruption is all going to be in vain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jimmy, for that background and giving us a status quo on where we stand as a country. Let me bring Rebecca into the discussion. So, Rebecca, where do we stand internationally out there in terms of the fight against corruption, basically?
Okay, thank you so much. As Uganda as a country, I'm actually so happy because we are not number one in the countries that are more corrupt. Globally, on the statistics, we rank number 142 among out of 120 least corrupt countries. And in East Africa, as a region, we rank number 3 out of the countries in East Africa. So that shows that at least we are fighting not to be among the first.
Okay, so in East Africa, out of the 7 countries, we rank number 3.
Number 3, yeah.
Okay.
So that means that at least we are fighting. We are not.
Which ones are number 1 and 2?
Well, I focused more on our country. Okay. So that means that at least we are fighting this we are fighting all this probe of corruption. And so when you look at how corruption has been and how we have been fighting it, it really shows that okay, we are trying something. But I beg to differ with what the previous speaker said, that there is a change. There is something that might change. When you look at corruption, he said that if someone in the village doesn't know anything about corruption, and yet when you look at where corruption starts from, he gave a view that yes, corruption is in the public sector, but also in the private sector there is a lot of corruption. When you look at what the government gave to the government brings, and the government comes and gives aid to the poor people, and yet it's the LC ones that are going to benefit from it, the councils of the village or what. And then when you look even at the school, it's the headmistress, headmaster, and everything that are going to gain from what the government is aiding, even if it's a fund or it's a grant from a certain, organization. It's the people that are going to receive the money first, or that grant first, that are going to benefit. So corruption is almost everywhere, even in the family. If you go and ask for your dad something, or from your mom, and your mom goes and asks from your dad, they are going to give different figures. There is corruption not only in the public sectors, but also in the private sectors, at home, at school, almost everywhere, all non-government organizations. So back to the question, is the fight against corruption achievable? I say no, it's not achievable, but we can moderate it. We can reach at a certain level. Okay, now that we rank at least not the first ones, maybe we can come back, as Mrs. Gender Fancy said before this, that we can be like maybe Sudan, down on the line, but not like ranking number one or what. So that is the only move we can do. Well, those are the only aspects we can do to fight corruption. But if it's the fight against corruption, it's not going to be achievable. Rather, we can at least moderate it and reach at a certain level that we are not recognized by the whole world that we are so corrupt or something. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me move to Josephine. But before I go to Josephine, let me get back to Rebecca. So, what do you think about talking about international statistics? What do you think about the school of thought that Uganda might not rank among the top, but when Uganda decides, when the officials decide to steal, because the top people are always developed countries, right? Because I know
Yes.
Norway is there.
Yes.
So when Uganda decides to be corrupt, since it's a developing country, we'll be stealing from very poor and vulnerable people. So what's your perspective around that vis-a-vis the international statistics?
The question is, when Uganda decides to be corrupt, why?
No, we still, the perspective, what is your own say on the perspective that some people have, that even, some people say, even when Uganda is not among the top people, the top countries, the top countries are developed countries, meaning they still, they still, but they're, you know, they still, but they are developed. But Uganda being a developing country, when they decide to be corrupt, they steal from the vulnerable Ugandans because it's a developing country. What is your perspective on that statement?
Okay, that's a very sad thing, that even if we are a developing country, people are still trying to decide to steal from the vulnerable people. But my perspective is, there is something with Africans and money. Okay, people and money. Like, even if you don't want to be corrupt, when you see money, you will still want to steal, or you will still want to, pull some from it. Like, money is evil, as the saying goes. Money is an evil thing. So even if people don't want to be corrupt, they will still be corrupt. It is very sad that Uganda is going into, it is very sad that the country is developing, yes, but still there is, the rise of corruption. Yeah.
Okay.
Should I just?
Yes, Jimmy. Okay, Jimmy, then we'll have Joseph.
So, she spoke about Uganda being third in East Africa and Uganda not being so corrupt. I think it is a little laughable to begin comparing Uganda to war zones in East Africa, comparing Uganda to countries like Somalia and Congo and South Sudan that do not have a system of governance. They're in total anarchy. So we don't know whether there's literally corruption there. Probably investigations have not been done. So probably Uganda is actually, those countries may be even probably more corrupt than Uganda. So I think there on the statistics, they may not be so reliable because we do not know what's going there. But still talking about the developed countries being the most corrupt. I think now for countries like Uganda that are developing, so when you steal from the poor, when you steal from government coffers, you're frustrating development. Those countries are already developed. So when you steal from government coffers, you're frustrating good roads, you're frustrating hospitals, and generally the infrastructure of this country. So those people, when they steal, that side in the developed countries like Norway, they may not feel the implications because they already have good infrastructure. Their hospitals are good. But trust, when you steal here, you're making us spend another 50 years to get good roads. You spend about 30 years to get a good hospital. So it's generally going to be a chain of retardation. We shall just be at the same level. But those people already developed. So generally that argumentation, it becomes null and void.
Exactly. He has answered what I wanted to answer to Rebecca. That what is limiting Uganda to develop today, it is because they are stealing from the vulnerable. You're going to see, like Jimmy has exactly said, that you may not know, if you look at Norway is already developed. So when Norway develops, or when officials or the ministers of Norway steal money from the government, maybe money given to construct roads, we may not acknowledge, we may not know, because the roads are already in place. But what is limiting us, the Ugandan, that when a minister steals from us, we don't have the roads in place. So you're given around 1M, or let me say 1 billion, sorry. Let me say you're given 1 billion to construct a road to Ntinda. So this road, you're stealing over 500 million from the 1 billion given. Already the road is going to be in place, but it's going to be crooked. So it is going to limit the development that could have happened in Ntinda. But if these officials in Norway that we are comparing internationally, if these officials get the money, and they develop their roads fast. So by the time they come in and steal, we may not acknowledge the theft. So what is limiting corruption, according to the question that you addressed, Rebecca? In Uganda, we have, because already we are in a developing country, we are trying to develop, we are just rising up. And corruption is fueled, should I say that elite corruption that we are having? Like the moderator said, that we have elite corruption. People who are educated are the ones that are in more corrupt. Yes, we may be corrupt at our levels, like the family level that Rebecca spoke of. Everywhere there is corruption, but the impacts of corruption are affecting the people down than the people, the officials that are committing it. If you're to look at the office of the minister, you're going to see that most of the offenses are passing there. But these offenses, how are the implementation? What are we putting up as Uganda? That is why I go back to the question addressed to us. Is really corruption achievable in Uganda? And I'll make a stand. That truth is, we can achieve it. But the problem is, what are the organs?
You're agreeing with Jimmy?
I'm agreeing with Jimmy. We can achieve. We can really stop and fight corruption. But the only problem we have as Uganda is that the organs put in place that are fighting corruption are the ones that are too down. The laws are in place, the organs are in place, but the implementation of the law to fight corruption is really faded out, is really fake. So that is why I don't agree that with Rebecca, that really we cannot fight corruption. We can, but if we put in place we implement the laws, because truth is, we have the laws to fight. It's not that we don't have the laws. We have the act, we have the institutions that are in place to really fight corruption. But the hardest solution is the laws are in place, but they are not being implemented. What are we going to do as Ugandans? I think this could be the question that we have to address next, maybe on the next show or any other day. What can we do?
We will address it at the end of this show, definitely.
Good.
We need to look at
what
solutions.
do we do as Uganda to really fight? Because yes, truth is, we have corruption everywhere. Not only in Uganda, it's the third best, which is okay. Not very good, but at least can we be down like maybe South Sudan? Can we be down and say no more corruption in Uganda? What are we going to do? Because we have the laws, but the implementation is the one that is really weak, that is limiting us to move up as Uganda.
Okay. There is something that you mentioned on we are not doing badly. Is 3 out of 7 a good statistics?
Thank you. It's not really good, because truth is, being the 3rd out of 7 among the corrupt countries, it is really weird. But truth is, we are not the top. Huh? Truth is,
3rd out of 7 and we are not top.
Yeah.
3rd out of 7 is a bad position. I'm not saying that we go on with corruption.
Okay.
So I'm not agreeing that maybe we increase with corruption so that we look for number 1. No. But if we can manage to drop up to 5, up to 7, and be the last anti-corrupt country, then there we can stand.
Is there any anti-corrupt country in the whole world?
Truth is,
a country that is completely free of corruption.
Impossible.
No, wait. Okay. You're asking Josephine?
Yes.
Okay.
She's asking if is really there any country that is anti-corrupt. Like she said in her speech when she was speaking, that truth is corruption is everywhere. So it is very absurd for me to lie to you people that indeed there is a country which isn't corrupt, because everywhere we move, I may, like the example she gave you, you may be at school, the students, and then they are like, we need a textbook of 50,000. You call the mom, you say, Mom, they told us a textbook of 60,000. The mom will go to the dad, and the dad will say, the dad will say 70. So truth is, we have grown up in a world or in an environment which is full of corruption. That is on the level of families. That is why if we are to grade it country-wise, we cannot have an anti-corrupt country. But we can minimize the corruption from the level we are on as third to drop down.
That is third in East Africa.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Josephine, still I'm with you. Let's talk about the office of the Prime Minister. We have had several corruption scandals come out of the office of the Prime Minister. When we talk of the Global Fund, we talk of the PRDP Fund, COVID Fund, the Relief Fund that was meant for the Kasese floods. Now we are talking of the Iron Sheets saga.
Yeah.
We have had several corruption scandals come out of the office of the Prime Minister, and top government officials have been implicated. What is your perspective on that?
Thank you. On this perspective, especially in the current one, the Iron Sheet saga, we've really had about many sagas that have happened before. But this one, because it is her office. Now, I think these laws, I'm going back to what I said, that we have the laws in place, but they're not being implemented. This saga is around. Maybe if a law was put in place and strictly implemented, then it could avoid more sagas. If we had the COVID saga, the COVID relief, and the money was stranded, the money got lost, and the person that was in charge is put behind bars, is arrested, it could avoid the Iron Sheet saga that we're having today. But because of the weak law, because of the law that is in present, because of the law that is in place, but it's not being implemented. When the COVID saga was in there, the COVID relief, it passed. So we forgot, we spoke about it, like we're speaking about the Iron Sheet saga, and suddenly it left our minds. Now we have the Iron Sheet saga. People are arrested, the ministers behind are arrested, the laws are there, but yesterday she got a bail out of it. So if she was bailed out, because I think she was given a 10 million bail. She had to pay 10 million, and then she was bailed out. So if we have laws, and then in 2 weeks' time, 1 month time, we will be quite out of the Iron Sheets, I assure you. Ugandans will have forgotten that people of Karamoja had to get Iron Sheets. And even the head himself, if he came out and maybe put up a law, because they spoke to the head, our president, and he had to speak something about the Iron Sheet, and his message was take back the Iron Sheets. Could it really? I think maybe the best thing could be these people instantly getting arrested. When they are getting arrested, it is scaring away people that could think of engaging in something like that. Because if I'm arrested today, I'm not functioning as a minister. So I'm losing my position. The people that I'm representing are losing trust in me. So it is going to scare another minister that could think of stealing the same money. But if a case is taken slightly, it is going to increase this saga. And I assure you the Iron Sheet saga is not the last saga that we are hearing about. Because we heard of the previous sagas that we have seen. The swindling of money in the parliament. The swindling of money through the office of the prime minister's office. So you're going to say we will still have a lot. We still have a lot of questions to answer. Because the laws are in place, but they are not being implemented. If they are put in place, strictly implemented, let me say, these people are arrested. I cannot take away the right of being bailed out, but I think more force should be added that is going to scare another MP, that is going to scare another minister, that is soon going to be given money to construct a road and is thinking of giving out the Iron Sheet, the money for the roads for another reason. So you're going to see that when they ask these people Iron Sheets, we are going to see Iron Sheets were found even being sold in different places. So this scandal is still going on as long as they are not putting laws they're not enforcing the laws that we have in place. Because I'm not going to say putting laws, we have the laws, but enforcing the acts that are in place.
Okay, thank you. Let me get to Jimmy. So Jimmy, I would like to get your perspective on how the Uganda has deals with corruption scandals. Now, the one that we are particularly dealing with right now is the iron sheets issue. Just for an update, you know, the iron sheets were meant for the affirmative action, vulnerable communities, different communities, Karamoja, Teso, Northern Uganda, they were different areas, right? So there was a list that came out of a list of top government officials implicated in taking out the iron sheets. We have seen some people returning the iron sheets. We have seen some people being prosecuted over the iron sheets. We have seen some people come out and say, I found it
They just
at my home. I didn't requisition for it. So if you want it, go and pick it from my compound. So a lot has happened. My question to you, Jimmy, is what is your perspective on how the Uganda handles corruption scandals?
I think the way Uganda handles its corruption scandals is in a very kangaroo manner. That's why prior said that, you know, the whole issue is about allowing institutions to function. If you don't allow institutions to function, then the whole process is going to be vague. Now, we have had recent cases of corruption in the country. There was a time a minister, I don't want to mention his name, he was a minister, he came to throw cement, then he asked those Indians for bribes, then he was arrested. And that just died off. They played it cool and it was no longer in the media. There was a time the IGG had said that she's beginning a lifestyle audit of all public servants within the system, that you should tell us about your wealth so that we get to know whether you're corrupt or you have illicit wealth or your wealth is really genuine. The president told her to go slow on that. So I think institutions are not being allowed to function. So if we can allow the judiciary, the legislature to function, we are going to fight corruption. But if you keep on subjugating on these institutions, then we cannot have a country that is going to fight corruption. So I literally think that all the things that are being done, the arrests, it's more of witch hunt, that they target one person. Then the other people that have a link within the system are not going to be penalized. They are just going to be appraised. Actually, in this country, the corrupt are very powerful. They are glorified. We worship them, the corrupt people. People that have integrity, you will get killed if you have integrity and you have principles in matters of morality. Those people that are corrupt are very much glorified. So I think the country does not handle corruption in the right way. I think corruption should be handled in respect and in accordance to the constitution. That is when we are going to fight corruption. But if the president himself wants to be the constitution, that he will just probably speak from State House and say, you know, go slow on that, please arrest, bring back the antics. That's not the way things are done. We claim to be a democracy. If you are a democracy, then let the law take its course, let institutions function. And when you begin to let institutions function, you're going to bring back trust to the population. When people begin to trust institutions, then that is when we are going to fight corruption. That is why we live in a country that when someone's land is being grabbed, the person will not run to police to report. No, the person runs to the house and gets a panga and wants to cut someone because they do not trust institutions. But when you make citizens begin to trust institutions, then that is when the fight against corruption is going to be achievable. That when someone knows that if my land is being grabbed, I will go to the courts of law and the courts of law will be impartial. That if I have an issue, I'll go. Not even those people that got the iron sheets, those ministers and all that, that's a clear sign that institutions are not functional, that people cannot go through the right processes to lobby for iron sheets through parliament and their constituents get the iron sheets. They do not trust the systems, that you need a high hand in the system. Please link me up, there's some iron sheets, then you get them through the corner and go. The systems are dead. The systems are rotten. That is why when people have issues, they do not go to police. They do not go to the legislature. They want to speak directly to the president because they feel it's only the executive that is functioning. And you're not going to fight corruption in that way. All institutions need to be involved. You're not going to fight corruption individually, that only the executive is the one fighting corruption. So I think the way Uganda handles corruption should be changed. I think it should be a basis of allowing institutions function. And institutions functions means respecting the constitution. In 2006, President Museveni announced a radical campaign against corruption. He said zero tolerance to corruption. But over the time, it's about more than 15 years, we are celebrating the corrupt. Very sad.
Okay, thank you so much, Jimmy. Let me move back to Rebecca. So, Rebecca, what is your perspective on measures that Uganda has put in place to fight corruption? We have listened to Jimmy is talking of the issue of the institutions having a problem. So, in your own perspective, what do you think about the measures Uganda has taken to fight corruption?
Okay. Uganda has put measures, but as the previous speaker said, they are still weak. They are still weak. They just stop on talking about them, but they are not applying them into the institutions. Like they are not applying them into the daily life. When you listen to what the president is saying is, I know them, but I don't have evidence. You know, even of recent, I had the IGG. She was like, they are in the government. There are people helping with the people working in the government to help, you know, embezzle the money to embezzle money of the government. So they are doing nothing. They are putting rules, but there is nothing. I have a feeling, that's my view. I have a feeling that to imprison the minister Chitutu, to imprison him, it was just to bring threats, but there is nothing that is going to be done. Actually, she was granted bail. So there is literally nothing that is being done into the fight of corruption. If the government could mobilize, if they were to give out funds, I really feel something like, why would the iron sheets come from the office of the prime minister and she's not following up? She's not doing the mobilization. She doesn't know where they are going. And she's, when they asked her, she was like, me, I was giving it to someone who is a doctor. I don't know what she's, I don't know that, I don't know what she's treating. I don't know if she got the title of doctor from masters or she's a health worker. Me, as soon as I heard it's a doctor, I just gave out. I just knew she knows what she's doing. Instead of following up, like if they were to follow up, if they find that you are corrupt and if they say if you're found corrupt, you have to be taken to prison and stay there, then that is what is supposed to be done. Look at countries that have developed. America, for example. I'm not going to say His Excellency, the former President Donald Trump was imprisoned because of corruption, but I'm going to say at least what is being taken to show that people, even if you're so high, you can come down to the law can bring you down and they can take you to prison at any time. Then that is what is supposed to be done in the country. Like that is exactly what we need. We can't be like, look at, I'm going to say names that I don't know if I'm protected by Center for Constitutional Governance. Look at the Jessica Alupo. She has a record of being corrupt. When you look at most of the people in the parliament, like in the ministry, they have a record of being corrupt. But what is the government doing? The government is still keeping them, giving them higher positions. Why don't they sack them? If you have a record of being corrupt, why don't you be sacked? Why don't you be off, like not being given, trusted with the government, information of the government or any fund from the government? Why? That is what we need to do as the country. If we are to fight corruption, we have to sack each and everyone that has a record of being corrupt. For example, if Honorable, or if the one that was imprisoned against about the OPM scandal, before we know it, in 5 years, she's going to come back as maybe the minister of what, as the vice president. We don't know what position she's going to be given, but she's still going to be there, okay? But she has a record of being corrupt. Follows many of the things. Look at this saga that has gone away that we don't hear about now. The one which was at the airline, people being corrupt at the airline, and then the only thing they came at, the only solution they came about, even people provided the information that this face is corrupting us, like he's asking money from us and everything. But what did they come with? They just said we are going to give them uniforms without pockets. What do you think that someone doesn't have a phone that you're going to send money there if he still wants the money? So there is nothing that is being done. If they have to come up with rules, the rules that are in the Constitution, the Corruption Act, they should use that one. They should go with that one rather than, how can you give the minister, I heard she was given a bail of 10 million. The one I heard that she has buildings in Kololo and everything, she can raise 10 millions in 2 days, in 1 day. Actually, she might have left with when she has already given the money. That is very weak. The system is very weak in bid to fight corruption. The president has been talking about corruption since day one. We are going to fight corruption. That year ends. Operation Wealth Creation, we are going to fight corruption. That year goes. This one, we are going to fight corruption. That year goes. And he's like, I know them, I just don't have evidence. The president doesn't have evidence about the people that are corrupt when he can get it in just a mere day. So I feel like the system is very weak. The system has, the chains are breaking. Like they have to make the chains. So if the IGG comes, Lady Justice, if the IGG comes and she's like, there are people in the government and we know them, but they are being funded, they are being helped by people outside to embezzle the government funds. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, if you know there is something wrong with it, you follow it up. That's what you're supposed to do. So I feel like the system is still so weak in bid to fight corruption or to sack corruption in the country.
Should I just
Okay, yes, Jimmy.
So China is considered one of the most autocratic countries in the world because they're referred to as a dictatorship. That is what the West has painted. But I like the way China has handled corruption over the time. You know, in China, when investigations are done and you're found guilty of corruption, you go to the gallows. Now, these people that have stolen answers, they would be in the gallows. Those ones would have gone to the gallows in China. And those, they would serve as an example. And we would see who else would want to steal. So in China, when you steal, you go to the gallows and you're gone, with your corruption. So I like the way they are considered very autocratic, but the way they have handled the corruption. That's why in China you cannot be corrupt. You will go to the gallows. But here in Uganda, you could be corrupt and be praised, be glorified.
Yeah.
Because just to add exactly to what these two have said, when she was being given a bail yesterday, they withheld 2 titles for Honorable Chitutu. You're going to say that we are speaking of this because now it is in the office of the Prime Minister and it has gone wide. But the creation or wealth creation that she spoke about, Emyoga, we have constituencies down that corruption even starts. You're going to say that very many people, they tell you, come together, we are going to give you money, we are getting money from the government, we are going to do this, but money does not reach the people, but money is released from the government. So they sign documents that money is given out, but you're going to see they gather you all together, but you don't receive the money. And on top of that, I've ever been on a Myoga scenario among the people that were affected, so I know the impacts of a Myoga. You're going to see that they even take some amount from you. You know, we are starting up an account, we need 20,000, we need a shirt for our crew, 30,000, we need this. You end up spending 100,000, expecting money to come. These people that are your leaders will get money. Truth is, money comes out. And when the president was addressing the Emyoga scenario, because all this we are in corruption, we are still looking at the officials that reach onto the government, that reach onto the executive, but we don't receive the money down. So we are leaving the system, like Jimmy said, we are leaving the systems not to work. And we are thinking that it is only one system that is going to work out. I'll directly go, that I'm a poor person. I know you people watch news. You're going to see if any scandal happens, when floods happen, when these vulnerable people come to the news, they always say, government to Yambi, president help us. They don't speak of any minister. They don't speak of the people that are just close to them. Because I think each group is represented in the parliament. So why don't I call the honorable minister of my constituency, of my area? Why do I direct to run to the person above? So it means there is something that is lacking. That is why we direct to go to the top. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So let's get back to the question that was posed by this topic. Earlier on, we said that the topic is the fight against corruption achievable?
Yeah.
So, Jimmy, earlier on, you alluded to the fact that the fight against corruption is achievable. So, can you elaborate more on that?
The fight against corruption is achievable, and as a young person, I'm very much optimistic that this can be achieved. And my argumentations generally are going to dwell around institutions, because institutions are the ones that run a country. But I think as a country, what may deter us, what may hinder us from this achieving the fight against corruption, I feel even the way this government came into power has a problem, because they came with, some people, they went to the bush and then they fought and then they assumed office, they assumed power. So the president has a chain of his buddies, his friends, his colleagues. So his colleagues have given birth to children. These children are part of the chain. So these children and these people are untouchable. You can't touch them. They're called war heroes. They're veterans. They're liberators. So you can't touch them. They're literally above the law. That's why even summoning them in parliament to answer questions is a little hard. These people are untouchable. But if institutions are allowed to begin functioning, and it starts with the president should allow other institutions to function. And then it should not subjugate, should not undermine the authorities of those other institutions. And I think going down as these institutions are empowered, people are going to begin to trust. When people have trust in institutions, people begin to have trust in police. When I go to police, this, and that. When I go to the judiciary, I will have a chance to be heard. Then that is when we are going to begin fighting corruption. And even I think the people generally, as a generation, as a country, as a population, we need to begin to talk about the importance of integrity. And then even we need to begin talking to children about, generally, the talk of materialism is all over us. People are so materialistic. Someone finishes university and in the next 2 years, they want to drive, they want to have a good house, they want to have a posh wedding. You can't have those things 2 years after graduation unless you're very lucky. So that is the problem, the aspect of materialism that is beneath us, that eats us up. So that causes people to begin to want to steal this. I want to have a house, I want to do so. By the time you ask the person, how much do you want? I earn 700,000, but you have a flat. How comes you have a flat? How comes you're driving a Benz? How comes your kids are studying in these particular schools? How do you balance this? And what the person says cannot add up. So the level of materialism in us is really so bad. And I feel that this particular market is going to eat us up slowly. It is eating up us. And I think in the long run, institutions are going to keep collapsing every single day, because 2006 and 2007 was speaking about the same issue. And we are now in 2023. There are still scandals of corruption. I think the country needs to go back to the drawing board. They need to begin to elevate institutions. However, I think that this is going to be because we're in the system of governance, we have undermines institutions. We have people that feel they are above institutions. You cannot say something about that. So that in itself will undermine. But as a country, if we begin to respect institutions, the fight of corruption is very much achievable. So it goes back to allowing institutions to function, allowing the judiciary to, if the laws are passed at parliament, please allow the law take its course. Then let the law do its course. Then from there, that is when we are going to begin having a functioning institution. But if you're having the laws are passed, then here when it comes to the judiciary, you want to delay investigations and you cover it up. Or you want to censor the press not to cover those particular stories. And that is what has been generally, that the press is not allowed to express these particular issues to society, that when there's a scandal, the story will be on like maybe for a week. Then from a week there, it begins to go off. And before you realize that story is gone and you don't know how it ended, it just disappears like that. So we need to allow institutions to function, and leaders should be made more accountable to the public, that we need to have a more open accountability, that if it is a district, you have an auditor, these acts of accountability should be more open. You should go and talk to people, tell people that, yeah, the district received 1 billion, we did this, and this, and there should be visible signs that this is what you did. If you claim you made a road this time. Another problem is that the corrupt people have a chain in leadership. Dot Services company is known to be one of the most corrupt companies. They are known for shadow services within the country. The roads they have constructed do not last 5 years before you see potholes and all that. But they keep giving them contracts. They are awarded contracts every single time because they have a chain in the system. So if you cannot allow institutions to function, that such people that are doing shadow work and stealing money from government coffers, these are loans that are meant to construct roads. If you're stealing loans, you're making poor people to pay these loans and you're doing shadow work. So I think that institutions should be allowed to function. That if you have a reputation of corruption, you shouldn't work with government because you don't have the moral integrity to even stand up and talk to us that you're a minister, that you have a company. Your company is known of corruption, but you're still being awarded this contract. So I think the executive is just fueling the corruption. Normally during campaigns, you see President Museveni go with sacks of money and give. So it's ironical that he himself now stands up to say, we want to fight corruption. You're propagating the very corruption you talk about. So it's more of a dog that eats its own vomit. So at that note, if institutions are not allowed to function, the fight of corruption will be in vain. But if institutions are allowed to function, we are moving towards the clear way.
Okay, thank you so much, Jimmy. That was quite elaborative. So Rebecca, on the panel, you're the only one who said this fight against corruption is not achievable in Uganda. Please elaborate on that.
Okay, why did I say that? I started from, because these two people in the panel, they look at the public sector, but me, I look at also the private sector, non-government organizations. Corruption is everywhere. Of recent, there is a time I was going somewhere with a friend of mine who is a Munyankore. So as we were entering, it was during COVID. As we were entering, they refused us to enter. This guy spoke Lunyankore, he passed. Me, I tried to explain, but I also want to pass. I can buy the mask. Wapi, I didn't go anywhere. So that's what I mean, that maybe if the public sector does its own job and it sacks people with the corruption history, like this one is corrupt, let's sack them. They are not supposed to lead or maybe represent people in the government, in the parliament or anywhere. That will be okay. At least it will curb corruption in the public sector. But let's go back to the private sector. That's where it is. Corruption it can be fought, but still we need a lot. It's not going to get done. I don't know if there is a country without corruption. That's what I'm trying to say. So it is not achievable. Why? When you look at tribes in schools, if you go to a school that has a director who is from the West, let me say the West because I mean they love themselves. If you go to a school that has people from the West, the headmaster will be from the West, the bursar will be from the West. Like if you come and you're from the East like me and you give your documents, they'll be like, oh, you're not Nyangore, what? So you're like, no, I'm not. Oh, we shall call you. Before you know it, the position has gone to someone else. And if I go to my friend's school or a company that has a director, there is a certain media company that I went to, and as soon as I found the guy's wife was from my tribe, as soon as she had the name, we started speaking the language. Immediately, I just knew that's my job. I'm going to be there someday because I know we have connected. So that's what I mean. There is a lot that is supposed to be done, leave alone the private sector, but also in the public, leave alone the public sector, but also in the private sector, from companies, non-government organizations. I was reading some BBC World News some time back, and they were like, the organization you said gave money to Uganda to fund refugees. The president brought a private jet. I saw those news. So it is everywhere. I mean, from organizations, from schools, at home. She said that at home, as child from school, they ask for money at 50K. Mom asks, the child asks mom for 60K. Mom asks dad for 70K. Dad asks from the work 100K. You know, all that during the traffic officers. Even if they said don't bribe traffic officers, people have it in mind that if he stops me, give me 2K, I give him. Of course, that's enough. That's all that is corruption. That's what I say. We can minimize corruption from the public sector. Why is it recognized? Why is Uganda recognized as a corrupt country rather? There are other corrupt countries. There are countries that are corrupt, but they are not so recognized. Why? Because it's in the private sector. But once it is in the public sector, the whole world is going to know. Who doesn't know that the minister scandaled? Like they shared iron sheets in the world now. Even if you go OPM iron sheets, of course they are going to give you the details, but they're not going to go and people search about a child who asked for money or what. That is where the country is only recognized when it is in the private sector. So at least if we fight the one in the private sector before we go back to the roots and start fighting this one, that is where we can curb corruption. But it is not going to be achievable. It is not going to be
exactly. You are concluding a statement and it seems like you're supporting us. It is achievable. And then you're changing. Because the moment we curb down the corruption from the public sector, of course, the private, you gave an example of the traffic officers. The moment we curb the public one, and it is down, it is minimized. The private one can easily, what she said is true. I'm not going to go off and then say it is not true that maybe you go to a certain company and then they ask you for certain money. I'm a teacher, I'm doing a Bachelor of Art with Education, but you're going to reach a certain school and they'll first look for the first name. What is your first name? You'll go to a certain school and then they'll say your position, Namakula.
They'll be looking for your last name.
Yeah. So they will look at which tribe does she fall in. Then you go to another school and they'll ask you, they'll say, we want 100,000 for this position. We want 400,000 because we know you'll be getting 1M. You know, so corruption is everywhere, exactly in the public sector, like she said, even in the private sector. But the moment we curb down, that is our fight now. That is what we are trying now.
Just Josephine, just a moment. You see, that is where I have a question for you and Jimmy, because with Jimmy brings the analogy of debt institutions, something that I feel I have also seen this happen, you know, institutions, because where the government has reached, we have courts in place, IGG, COSASE, PAC, police, anti-corruption department of State House, and there is an analogy of these institutions being dead. So my question to you and Jimmy is, where do you see the hope that one day the fight against corruption will be achieved? Where do you see the hope? The
hope
light
is
at the end of the
putting
tunnel?
right people to head this institution.
Do you see that happening in this country?
It is possible.
That is where I want you.
It is possible.
To ask, do you see that? Do you see
Putting
hope for this country having functional institutions? Do you see hope for this country having a scenario where we don't have to wait? I think that is a question you and Jimmy will answer after the break. So let us take a short break and we will come right back with the same discussion on, is the fight against corruption achievable in Uganda? See you after the break.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from that short break. We are still with university students discussing the topic, accountability in Uganda. Is the fight against corruption achievable? So I'm here with Jimmy from Kyambogo University. I'm with Rebecca from Kampala International University and with Josephine from St. Lawrence University. So before we took that break, I was with Josephine and Jimmy. I guess Josephine will answer first and then we go to Jimmy. My question is that earlier on, the two of you said the fight against corruption is achievable. My question is, for Uganda, where do you see the hope? In a situation where the panel has said there are dead institutions, corruption exists in private and public sector, where do we see the hope for a change in Uganda?
The hope is still in the institutions. But the only problem that we have that we've just addressed now is they are in place, but they are dead. So we are supposed to put the right people in their positions and put them to what they have to do. You know, we are all subjected to corruption only because of these institutions. Like we said, that corruption is everywhere, public, private. So everywhere, all our lives, no one can wake up and say, you know, me, I'm not corrupt. When you wake up and say, I'm not corrupt, like some religions may say, corruption is bad in this religion, don't take the Kameza money, because it is where all it starts. But if we wake up and say, we are not going to be corrupt, the environment already you're in is corrupt. So we go back to the institutions that are in place. We go back to the laws. One law, in teaching, I'm a teacher, so I normally have examples of a teacher. When you're teaching a class of 200 students, you just need one person to be the example for others to be quiet. You enter the class and the entire environment is loud. Pick 1 or 2. They will serve as examples to the rest. So you will beat 2, you will maybe punish 2 people, and the entire class, the 200, will be quiet. So the institutions are in place. We need not very many people that are going to help us fight. We need at least 3 of the institutions, or 1. Even if it's 2 that is functioning, it's work very well. Maybe the personalities that are put in place are going to do their work very well. It is when we will see and say there is hope. But hope is not going to be in place, especially if the people in the place are not fighting it. So if at least we have 2 people that are willing to fully fight against it, 2 people that are in these institutions that are really going to act as examples, that are maybe going to bring out the culprits of corruption, and they're put into punishment, they're subjected into a heavy punishment that may scare away others from committing it, you'll see that another organ will come up and then it start functioning.
So Josephine, for Uganda, which institutions do you see hope for that
because
will function?
Especially you have to start with the judicial. That is the law. We have to start there. That today we are speaking of the executive as the head. Executive is where all of us who are subjects of corruption are running to. We are running to the upper part. We are forgetting the law. We are forgetting down. So if we can think of how judicial can function, if we can think of which personalities are really able to sacrifice their lives, you're going to see that us even getting independence as Uganda, everything needs a sacrifice. Someone had to sacrifice. Our president to come to power, he sacrificed his years in a bush. So he came out. Now also, if we are to limit the level of corruption in Uganda, because we can't fully fight it, I'm agreeing with Rebecca. We can't fully scrap it off.
You're switching to...
No, I'm not. I'm not switching to her, because her stand is we can't fully, like, it is impossible.
Your stand is we can minimize.
Good. My stand is it can be minimized to the level where we don't feel it the way we are feeling it today. Today you feel in any position you go to, in any position, even if you're going to graduate, they tell you, which course are you doing? I'm doing this. Which school do you want? This and this. Prepare to aim if you want to get in. But to aim not for your money that you're going to be paid. No, just to enter in the position. They can ask you, where are you going? I'm going to this office and this office. Do you know there? Yeah, I know the area, but do you think you can enter there? Me, I know a person who can make you easily enter. So you're going to see that everywhere we go is corrupt. But if we minimize and I can enter such area, I can go to any place I want and I'm not paying a certain amount, it is something that I will stand and come back here and say, corruption is no longer in Uganda. You're going to see in public sector, in the field I'm in, for you to enter a government school, to be on the government payroll, you have to pay a lot of money compared to the money that you earn. They may say, you're a science teacher. Today we are being given a lot of money, science teachers. You're going to, they will ask you, you're a science teacher, you will be given around 4M, so you're paying 8 for you to join the payroll. And you're not sure whether you're going to be on the payroll. So I'm showing you the level of corruption. But if we start recruiting teachers without any payment, just on merit, you know, this person passed in a good institution, this person did the exams and they really passed. So there we are down on corruption. But if today every position you're looking for, you have to first pay money, we are going back to the institutions, we are going back to the laws. Because truth is, I don't think the law of recruiting teachers on government says you pay money. I don't think. No. You're going to find someone, the teacher is not good, but he's on government. The teacher doesn't have good grades because I can borrow Jimmy's papers, I can borrow Rebecca's papers. I join government because I have my 5M. Because someone will get in touch with you and say, you know, moderator, you want to join this position, maybe you want to join this area, you pay 100M, I'm expecting you to be getting this amount of money in this period. So for you, you count and say, 100M, I'll be in this position for around 55 years, my children will benefit and I'll be getting around 10M a month. So 100M is not a lot of money. So you'll pay in the money because you feel like that position is better for you. The laws are in place. There is a right path that we all know. Because for a teacher to be an headmaster, we all go to the same institutions. The institutions may be different, but we all study the same things. We all study the same ideologies, that this is how a teacher behaves, this is how you should do, this is how you will join, this is how we mark, this is what we mark, this is, we study the same bracket. But why is it that they will ask a lot of money for you to gain something? Because we have the institutions, we have the organizations, but they are not working. Our hope, back to what you asked me, our hope is only when we get to the person who is willing to sacrifice it. The heads, even if we have 201 organization that is going to say, I'm ratting out all corrupt officials. I'm recruiting new people that are really going to work for me, new people that are really going to fight corruption. That will be our base. That will be our start of fighting corruption.
Okay, thank you. Let me get back to Jimmy. So Jimmy, earlier on you talked about institutions not being functional, and then corruption existing everywhere. So my question is, where do you see the hope? Since you say this is achievable in Uganda, where is the hope?
And she spoke a lot about the bureaucratic corruption that exists and the political corruption that exists. But where is the hope? I want to look a little back during Obote's government. I didn't live during his time, but I've heard tales about his government, about how civil servants were treated, how you graduated from school and then if you're probably a nurse, there's accommodation for you, the allowances, you don't pay taxes, you don't go to the same market with people that are not public servants. You can just go, if you don't have money, you go and you just get food. So the public servant had a life that was so ideal for them that there was no reason for stealing. But right now, these are the people, the conditions of work are generally hard. So for me, my point of hope as a country, if we are going to redeem ourselves from corruption, is a revamption in the systems of governance. And revamption starts with the executive and the judiciary and the whole system. So, but though, even if there's a revamption in the systems of governance, I think it can even take us about 10 or 15 years to heal ourselves from this cancer of corruption. Because being in power for about 40 years is a very long time. These people are so much rooted into the systems of governance. So pulling them off in after they leave power, after there's a resumption in the institution, it might take us at about 10 years to heal from this cancer. So I think it is a process that is going to be gradual. It is not going to happen overnight. It starts with each and every one of us, and it's a process that will go over and over and over, and the institutions will then be allowed to function if there's a revamption. But however, if the institutions are still the same, we might still just be in the same murky and drowning in it.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to Rebecca. So Rebecca, you earlier said that the fight against corruption is not achievable in Uganda. My question to you is, with the prosecution of a minister, because we are seeing a sitting minister undergoing prosecution in the anti-corruption court for corruption, would that change your perception? Would you think probably there is hope that the systems might start to function?
No, there is no hope. I think I talked about it when I said that I have a feeling they did that just to scare, but nothing is going to change. And I think I talked about how different people have history about corruption, but they are still given bigger oppositions. 5 years or 10 years to come, we are going to see the same minister in another bigger office, given a certain position to sit and discuss matters concerning the people, concerning what is happening, what is wrong with the people. So I feel like nothing really is going to change. I love how they talked about changing of institutions, sacking all the people that have all the people in the institutions, because literally they have done nothing. They're just talking about it and bringing in new people. But then I have a question. How sure are you that the people you're bringing in are also not corrupt-minded?
Should I answer that?
Wait, you will answer later. How sure are you that the people that are coming in are also not corrupt-minded? Because I believe people that come in and go, even when you're voting for MPs, they'll be like, me, I'm not going to do that. But what are we seeing? Roads are not done, and yet they are being funded by the government to work on the roads, the MPs. We are seeing different things that their previous leader used not to do, and they also promised us that they will do, but still nothing is being done. So I mean, people are all corrupt. Like, I'm not saying people are corrupt, but I believe even if you try to sack people out, more people will come in with different views or different ideas on how to get the money. I remember there is a certain MP who was standing in, I don't remember where, but he was like, you vote me, I also eat the government money. I mean, what is that? What is that?
I think that was Katolu
Yeah,
Bwama, right?
Katolu Bwama.
Yeah, vote me, I also eat the government money. What is that? So and they voted him. He is there, right?
Because he was honest.
He was in
Well,
the
he
was
Yeah,
he
he
went
was
to
in the
parliament
previous-
Did you
previous
hear what he
caller,
said?
yeah.
He was honest.
Yeah.
Are the people there in his wherever they voted from, are the roads done? But he's being given money, and then you say he's doing nothing. But people also support corruption, you understand? Because he said he was honest, and people voted for him because he was honest. Then what is that? We are also supporting corruption. That's what I mean. That even if the minister has a corruption background, they will still vote for her into a certain bigger position because he has that, because they have that history. So I believe really nothing is going to be done about everything.
I want you.
If there is a change that is going to happen, even if it's gradually, it will happen maybe
After a death. You really think we can be there?
I want to disagree with Rebecca. I think we shouldn't be so pessimistic. We shouldn't lose hope at this level. I think we should have they can be.
Jimmy, do you blame her for losing hope then?
Yeah.
Recently we saw the IGG come out and say corruption scandals is being fueled by the big fish.
That's what
IGG that is supposed to give us names of the big fish comes out and calls them the big fish.
That's why I said
IGG also came and gave a percentage. I remember it was above 50 of public servants don't qualify to be in those positions.
and they are doing nothing about it.
So Jimmy,
that's why I said we need a revamption of institutions. I didn't only mean firing ministers. I meant from presidency to the legislature to the judiciary. The whole system needs to be revamped. That's what I meant. I didn't only mean that you don't remove the tail and you leave the head.
That's
what I
where
meant.
my question comes in. How sure are you that the people that you're trusting again are not also corrupt?
Look. We are not going to sit back because we think we have assumptions that even the people coming into the systems are corrupt. That's not how we are going to.
There is you that has a mind that we need a
the
change.
people that need the change. So we should probably revamp the system. Over revamping the systems is really hard because in the current governance we have, they will not allow you to revamp the system.
Exactly.
They want to stick around.
Okay, so let us talk about solutions. I think that's the part that Josephine was waiting for because she preempted it. So, and I'll start with you, Josephine. What do? We are now here. You people, earlier on, we analyzed corruption, where it is, where we have reached internationally, where the problem is. 2023, we are sitting here discussing. So what do? How do we move on?
So as the people of Uganda, we have to just remain with a small hope, not to be like Rebecca, who totally lost hope fully that there is no way that we will move around. Maybe Rebecca even has an assumption that we'll even move from number 3 and be the top among the corrupt countries. But may I have a hope, or I believe that we still have hope that we can fully go down from number 3 and drop to number 7, number 6. As long as we do whatever we have been speaking about, still, the only solution we have is changing, emphasizing the institutions, emphasizing judicially, putting the laws at work. We have the laws, but the laws are not at work. So the solution remains the same. As Ugandans, as the people that... because we are the ones that start, we are the leaders. Because if we say no to corruption, there is someone who I think the video that went viral about the traffic officer that asked money from someone. A driver was trying to move and then was caught. So the traffic officer accepted the money. I think around 2 years back, the video went viral, and the traffic officer that had handled the money was put off the job, so on. So traffic officers receive money. I'm not saying that money now bribery is no longer there today. It is there, but you will say that it is minimal. They'll go behind the cars. It is not openly the way it was before. Before, they could stop a taxi, the taxi is having excess, and then the officer will stay on the doorway. The driver will say, you know, give me your national ID, give me your driving permit. So under the permit, that is where the money will be. Today, it is not the case. The driver has to move out. At least they will be behind the back. Because of the scandal that happened, now today the officers know the people in the car have phones. And social media is wide. Now, it does a lot of work. It has a lot of influence. So if we go back to the institutions and then we strengthen the law in the judiciary, we strengthen the organs, we strengthen the bodies, we strengthen the acts that are already in place. And then we're like, someone is subject to corruption and is caught, is subjected under a lot of, is subjected under a lot of law. This person is arrested and then it is going to go off. Everyone will know, you know, this one is arrested. And I don't agree with what the government said or with what the lawyers did of getting Honorable Chitutu out of on bail 10M. You know, if I'm a minister out there and I'm also thinking of swindling money somehow, somewhere, and then I see him, then I'm like, oh, so I need around 100M and I'll be out one day, one time. It is, yes, we should not limit her, right? Because she has the right to be on bail out. But it's something, maybe a heavy law. You know, we are putting in the moment we catch you in corruption, engaging in an activity of corruption, we are going to imprison you for this law and you won't be allowed this. Yeah. So if such a law is put up, I will fear. I'll have fear, you know. If I'm caught, then this law is working. And I've really seen someone who's still in behind bars because of this. I'll fear to practice it. Then when we go to the private sector, how can we minimize it? Because that is in the public one. Then the private one, still, let's now start employing people on merit, not because of the money. Because today we have a problem that they tell us when we are studying, or even our fellows, or even the people that are out there, they tell you, you're studying what? Do you have anyone in your family who is in that position? Are you really knowledgeable about what you're studying?
Do you have connection?
You know, do you have connection in what you're studying? I pity you. You're going to do mass comm? Is your sister, is your uncle on any media? I have no one. I pity you. Don't bother with that. So let's start not employing people because they have money. You're going to see that most of the big positions, people there already have money. Because you're not going to tell Josephine, I need 100M in 2 days, and then 100M for you to gain this position, and Josephine will have money. I assure you, Josephine won't attain that. In 2 days, won't attain that position. So we need to fight a lot, and the only solution we have is back to the organizations.
Okay, thank you, Josephine. Let me move to Jimmy. Your solutions to all this.
Okay, I think we are living in a country where there's generally no political will to fight corruption. It's evidently seen within the country that there is no political will to fight corruption. But for my solutions are basically on empowering institutions. That is where everything starts from. If institutions are empowered, then that's when we are going to have the solutions. But generally, there is no political will. There is no political will to fight corruption. All attempts by certain institutions to fight corruption may be subjugated upon by the executive. So I think that there should be a political will. It all starts with a political will to fight corruption. And I think it also draws back to us as citizens, as ordinary people that are just citizens of this country, that corruption starts with each and every one of us, and that we should have some sort of moral integrity, that we should have a sense of humanity, that you don't steal money meant for people who are needy. You don't steal from someone that is going to die. Ethically, it's not good. So I think the aspect of morality and generally the moral decadence, I think religious leaders should preach more in the mosques, in the churches, to people. And maybe those who are atheists, I don't know who will reach them out, but people need to be told that this is bad. And also, I think that as a country, we need to begin streamlining the issue of accountability, that people need to be accountable. People need to show us what they are doing with funds. That if money is sent to a town council, people there should show us accountable. And I think there should be more civic education. People should know about their rights, that you know what, you're a taxpayer, you hold these people accountable, that if money is sent here, please tell us, Mayor, where did you put the money? Please tell us, Town Clerk, where is the money? So people should become more accountable and people should be empowered. However, the systems at power do not want people to have this civic education. They want to keep people naive, people ignorant, so that they don't learn about this. Because if you have a very much informed generation, ruling them is going to be a little hard. So people need to be informed more about their constitutional rights, about their rights as taxpayers, so that they can hold people accountable. So accountability is very much important in the aspect of fighting corruption. I think if institutions are allowed to function and then there's accountability, that is when something is going to begin happening. But I'm over afraid that that chain, there's the chain of mafias that we don't see that run this country and propagate the corruption. And I think that these institutions are just symbols of nothing that are there, the anti-corruption, COSASE, and all that. They literally do not have the powers. But the whole issue starts with having functionality in institutions. That is the only hope that I see, having functionality in institutions.
Okay, thank you so much, Jimmy. Let me move to Rebecca. So Rebecca, your solutions.
My solutions are, I'm not going to be so different with Jimmy. Accountability. If the government is giving out funds, follow up. Mobilize, moderate, like get to know where are they going. Leave alone these things of the Prime Minister coming and it's like, me as long as I had the title doctor, I gave out because I know what she is doing. You have to follow up. Where are they going? So it is through that we will fight at least to a certain percentage corruption. When you're giving out funds, follow up and see where they're going. For the roads, because even when you look at the meetings of COSASE, what they were doing, people don't know where the money went. They are giving accountability of, they're asking them where is this money, and they don't even know where it is. They're like, actually, we don't know where that money is. We funded our own selves and we got some more money to fund this thing. So if at least there is someone who follows up where the money is going, you've asked for 1 billion and they have used 500, get to know where the other one is, get to know what has this one done. Leave alone this thing of using money and you use cheaper things and the money has gone. The money, before you know it, Uganda's money is so good. Before you know it, the money has disappeared just like that. So I really go with what Mr. Jimmy has said, that there is supposed to be accountability. Without accountability, we are not going to fight corruption. We have to mobilize and we have to utilize. We have, like, the government is supposed to know what are the people using the public things for, what the utilization of public services, how are they being used. Like, that's the only way we can curb corruption.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this probably will be my last question to you, Josephine. So most of our solutions centers around government. Now, on the side of the citizens themselves, what do you think they should do?
So on the side of citizens themselves as Ugandans, that is when we go back to what there is a statement Jimmy said of morality, because what you have, should I call it even principles of a person? Because there is a way, if you're moral and you think of what should be done, you as a person, do you really need to take, because we have corruption down in our lives, so do you really need to swindle the money of this person? Because they are the citizens themselves that will one day reach the government, the parliament, and so on. So if we citizens have that moral ethic among our lives, that this is how life should move. I have my 10,000. Let me be contented with the 10,000, because so far this is the money that I can be earning now. And then think of the right way that I can add maybe more than 10,000 to 50,000 to maybe 100,000. So, but if we don't have the moral ethic of our lives, then we may not fight corruption. However much we are fighting, we are speaking of the government and so on, and the public sector, but and what the entire government should do. We as the citizens of Uganda, we need to go back to the roots, and this goes more to the religious leaders, that they need really to do more of the work, to educate people, to tell people, doing this is bad, because at least if we are in a population of let me say 1.6, at least the 3.5 may understand. So if at least we have a population that is going to fight corruption among the levels, the down levels, I've been given 10,000 to go home. Why then should I reduce this money to this level? Well, maybe I've been given 20,000 to help this person. Why then should I give this person 2,000 and then keep the 17,000? So there is a way that we need us ourselves to keep the ethics of our lives, the morals among us, the citizens of Uganda, so that maybe when we get a chance to lift up to the level of the parliament, we have a way. Because, like Rebecca said in her previous talk, she said money is evil, and we all agree. I may be given today I may be speaking about corruption, how bad it is, and how negative I am about it, but you're given money that may blindfold you. But if you're on the ethics, you're on the morals that you really know, it goes back even to the parents, that how you raise a child. You've sent this person for maybe an onion down in the levels of maybe 200 shillings. You've sent this child. Is the person really going to buy an onion of 50? Do we even have 50 coin again? Of 100 shilling, and then the 100 is kept in the pocket? Someone of 4 years, and if this child grows up that way, may I keep the 100? Mom sent me for 200. May I will buy that one over 100 shilling and then keep the 100 shilling. So that is where corruption starts from.
So what you're saying, parents should ask for accountability.
Good. Parents should ask for accountability. It seems this onion you've bought is not over 200 shilling. Are you really? So if this child opens up, the child is going to grow up knowing, swindling money which is not mine is bad. Getting money which is not mine is bad. So by the person will come of our age, will have that mindset of how are we really going to uplift Uganda. Maybe that is how we can minimize it on the citizenship level or on the lower level, is being accountable among ourselves, having those morals among ourselves, and also the role of the religious leaders that they can do to help us out, to educate the people, to get to know the Bible and what God speaks about more, and what the Bible speaks about more, and what should be done.
Okay, thank you so much.
She just said
okay.
She spoke about the children. She was saying the child to buy onions, let there be accountability and all that. But I personally think that for the level of a family, I think it is important that parents nurture good morals. But people that steal from government coffers, you're stealing lots of money that are going to implicate on many, many lives. When you steal from your father, that's your family. It's not going to implicate.
Exactly. This is where it is all starting.
I'm not listening to me. I'm not saying that is good. But when you steal from government coffers, you steal 20 billion that is meant to change the life of a community. Those people need to be taken to the court.
Jimmy, this thing starts from a small thing.
It starts from home. I don't refute. It starts from home. But people that are stealing from government coffers, these guys need to be punished. They don't need to go scot-free. They need to be punished. So that is my argumentation, that yes, the morals will start from home, yes, but if you steal from government coffers, please, these people need to be punished.
Okay. Let's get closing remarks. So probably you'll bring that in your closing remarks, because we have come to the end of the show, and I'll give a minute each so that you give your closing remarks. Let me start with Josephine.
Just as I'm closing, we can't go off, we can't put a blindfold on what is happening down in our families. So I disagree with Jimmy that yes, government officials are wrong, and yes, we should implement, and they should be fought, they should be imprisoned, they should be arrested, yes. But also, if such a circumstance happens downtown, if it happens at home, don't put a close eye on something like that, because they are the government that are swindling more money. I'll start with 100K, the next day I'll go to 500, the next day I'll go to 1M, and then the next day will find me in the parliament stealing, and I'm very okay without anything over conviction, that is happening. So as I'm closing, we as the people of Uganda, we have to go back to the roots. We have to go back to what is needed. We have to go back to fight, because it starts really with us, the people, and then maybe the government officials. If you see any level of really where corruption is needed to be enforced, we're already in an environment of corruption, and we can't go away without it in the environment. But let's try to strengthen the bodies that are in place. Maybe the judicial part, maybe the executive part, maybe more of all organs that we are trying that are already in place. Let's try to strengthen. At least we need one key person, maybe two people that really say, no way to corruption. I'm going to do this. Maybe people will hate me. Maybe I'll be poor. Maybe I'll be called stupid. No matter what you'll be called, just stick to the law and what you really want to change for the betterment of the new generation that may come up.
Okay, thank you, Josephine. Let's have Rebecca.
Thank you so much. I still stick to my point that corruption in Uganda, the fight against corruption is not achievable. But I think what I'm trying to put down is, at least if we can moderate it, we can reach a point at which there is at least a few cases of corruption. Let the government stop giving people that have corruption background more bigger positions. There are people out there that are very pure that can work in the very same offices. So, and the other thing, at least if they can moderate on each and everything that is going out in hand, from the aids, grants, to anything that is going out from the government, at least that can at least help us into the fight of corruption. And this thing, as the citizens of Uganda are saying, it's not only for the government. You know, any problem they have, any government we can also, you know, we can, as the people, we can fight it. We can fight against it. I love how Twitter people I love how they come out when there is a problem. They come and they talk about it until when the police, you know, invades in it. Like, for example, the police officer who sprayed the journalist. They did talk about it, but they were moving around Twitter. So the government, we have to talk about certain issues until when the government feels like, no, people are not going to keep quiet until we put something on it, and like we strengthen something on it. So that is the only thing we have to do. At least we have to show that we are concerned citizens with everything that is going on, not only leave everything for the government to work on it.
Okay, Jimmy.
I want to end with a question to all of us as citizens. As a country, as people of Uganda, what do we want? That should be the question that we want. Do we want a world that we are going to have a big gap between the poor and the rich, that the rich are very rich and the poor are very poor, and the rich are very, very worried about the poor because they think the poor are coming to steal them? Because if you keep stealing and amassing a lot of wealth and you're leaving others poor, literally your property is as well insecure. So I think as a country, we should ask ourselves, what do we really want? I think all of us want to live in a country that there's harmony, that there's peace. Normally, when corruption gets to a bigger level, they begin to have cartels of wrongdoers who go around. They can even frustrate democracy. They frustrate democracy because they have a lot of money. They can undermine principles and governance in a country. So I think as a country, that is not what we want. We want our children to have a good life, go to the best hospitals. When you steal money that is meant to build a hospital, yes, you may fly to Canada someday, you might fly to the US to get medication, you may fly to Aga Khan in Kenya. But I want you to imagine that particular person in that particular community that does not have that money to fly to those particular places that you're flying to, that they also deserve a chance to attain good health care. So I think as a country should ask ourselves what we really want. And I want to say that the fight against corruption starts with each and every one of us. We're all in one way or the other guilty of corruption, but it starts with a conscience, and that we should work towards reducing this vice in society. I thus believe that there's hope that we can achieve a fight against corruption in this country. I also want to thank Civic Space Television for the invite. I am really much so humbled. It has been an overwhelmingly productive engagement. I am so honored to be here.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming and having this discussion with us. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Rebecca and Josephine, and we have come to the end of the talk show. So thank you so much to our viewers for watching. Thank you to Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV for providing this platform to university students. You know, earlier I was having a discussion with them, and we came to a realization that in our community, young people sometimes don't have a say because the elders are there. They say the elders have got to speak. So this platform allows the young people in universities to be able to discuss. Our hope is that the solutions that came out here are able to reach the ears of the policymakers. So we are ending here. See you next week, same time.